Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for logging on for our 7th week of Financial Peace University. We've been talking through this, our series on finances, because we believe that God has blessed us with finances, and He actually calls us in 1 Peter 4:10. It says, as each has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace. We are called stewards of God's money. We say this at the beginning of every single week, because we want us to understand it's not our money that we're taking care of, it's God's money. And so that should put a hunger and should put a passion behind us getting our finances correctly, because we will give an account to God for how we used what He gave us. And so last week what we talked about insurance, and I pray that what you did is that you actually went and you did an insurance checkup where you kind of looked at all your different insurances and you adjusted things as were necessary. If you don't know what I'm talking about, make sure to go into last week's message as we talked about insurance. It's very important. It's not fun to talk about, but it's very important to take care of. And so what we are going to be talking about this week is we're going to be talking about retirement and college planning. Retirement and college planning. And this week what we're going to be talking about is we're going to talk about the introduction to investing. We've kind of been talking about how to avoid the outflow of money so far. We talked about how to protect it through investing. Now we're going to start shifting into another thing of how to grow our assets and through investing and through retirement and through college planning. And this week is really, really good. I really, really like it, so we're going to get right into it. But one of the things that I also want to say is that sometimes, I know the first time I actually listened to this, it actually frustrated me. And the reason why it frustrated me was because he was using the number of 12% for the amount that he was getting every year that he invested. And I kept on looking, I'm like, I don't see 12% anywhere. And the more that I looked, I actually saw what he was going off of was that he was going off the historical rate of return since the stock market came around. And the one thing that's messing that up is the 2000s range. Many people that started saving during the 2000s, it's actually called the lost decade, where basically every dollar you put in, you got $1 out. And so you didn't see a rate of 12% return. But understand that what he's using a historical baseline of what the stock market's done in the past, and we're actually starting to see that return over the past 10 years. And so if you get frustrated over that 12% number, understand that that number of 2000 to 2010, the lost decade as it's called for the stock market, is not a good representation of the stock market. And so we almost need to sometimes put our own perceptions of what's going on aside, and we need to see what it's done in the past, because that's the best indicator of what it will do in the future. And so with that little disclaimer off to the side, let's get right into this episode about investing and college savings.
Welcome, Dave Ramsey.
Woo! Yeah! Thank you. Thank you. The great motivator Earl Nightingale used to tell the story of a preacher walking along a country lane. And as he came to the top of a rise on this country lane, he looked at the valley below and he saw this beautiful, incredible farm. He was walking on towards the farm, and the closer he got, the more immaculate he realized this farm was. All of the rows of corn were perfect. There was not a weed in the field. The fence rows were clean, the fences were mended, everything was as it should be. And as he approached, he began to see the farmhouse unfold before him. And of course, the lady's garden was the same as the gentleman's field. It was in perfect condition. All the fruits and the vegetables were just hanging on the vines out in the field. The corn was just hanging there. It was an amazing sight. Everything seemed to be in place. It looked like a Norman Rockwell painting. And as the preacher is walking along in the lane in front of this farm, Here comes the farmer out to the end of the row. He'd been working there in his corn. Acres and acres and acres of this stuff. The old farmer's, of course, dirty and dusty, and he's been working and tending his field. And the preacher stops and says, "How are you, farmer?" And he says, "Fine, preacher. Thank you for stopping by today." And the preacher backs up and says, "Farmer, the Lord has blessed you with a beautiful farm." And the farmer says, "Yes, sir, he has. And I tell him thank you for that every morning. But you should have seen it when he had it all to himself." I've told you this a couple of times. I love that St. Ambrose quote that says, "Pray like it all depends on God and work like it all depends on you." We live in a cause and effect world. We live in a sowing and reaping world. We play our part in this process. The diligent prosper, the Bible says. There is a process we engage in. And so when we get to things like investing, it's not as simple as saying, "Hey, I need to know the mathematics of investing. I need to understand the laws of IRAs and 401ks. You do need to do those things. If you're going to be a farmer, you need to know what seed to plant. You need to know what fertilizer to use. You need to be an expert at your craft in order to get the yield, in order to get the crop to come in. And you and I are the same. We've got to learn enough about these things in order to prosper. We've got to play our part. And yet we know the blessings come from the Lord. We know the source of it. So we get to play this part between works and faith, and how the two are interspersed in our lives when we have a balanced, proper life as a Christ follower. We're in there playing our part and doing our thing. This is the lesson where we discuss retirement and college planning. This is the lesson where we dream. To start with, we just kind of got our little bases built. We just got back away from the edge of the cliff, and then we cleaned up the mess that we had made. And then we started laying a solid foundation to build a house on. And now I'm going to show you where this is going to take us. We've been talking about living like no one else, so that later we can live like no one else. This is the lesson where we show you how to get to live like no one else in a biblical manner. So this is the part where we dream, and you've got to see that light at the end of the tunnel. But if you don't do this work back here, that light at the end of the tunnel is just an oncoming train. You've got to get the mess cleaned up and lay the foundation. We don't start talking about picking out the roof color until we do the framing and until we've laid the foundation. All right, let's look at the great American dream for a minute. Let's take a 30-year-old couple making an average household income. Now, the average household income, according to the Census Bureau right now, is between $48,000 and $50,000 a year. If that couple making $48,000 a year were to save 15% of their household income, that is $7,200 a year, $600 a month. Now, if they were to save $600 a month in a 401k that doesn't match, in some good growth stock mutual funds making 12% growth, at age 70, this 30-year-old couple would have $7 million. Say wow! I mean, what if I'm half wrong? So the big deal here is do something. Plug in. And you got to understand that this example is of a loser. This is a loser. What? Well, they started out at age 30 at an average household income, and for 40 years never got a raise. We saved 15% of $48,000 for 40 years. We never got a raise, because if you got a raise, you'd be saving more, right? Because we're saving 15% of our income at this stage. So this is a loser. You start at average and you never get a raise. It's okay to start at average, but never getting a raise is not okay. Somewhere in there, you ought to show up often enough and breathe near the boss to get a raise. Charlie's been here 15 years. Maybe we ought to give him a little bump. He's not leaving, so I guess we're going to have to give him a bump. You know, at least a little bit, right? Now let's take that same couple and let's say that they qualified for a Roth IRA, which right now, as of this shooting, you could put $5,000 each in. Now, $5,000 each is $10,000 a year. That's $830 a month invested at 12%. From age 30 to age 70, guess what that is? It's $9.8 million. $10 million. You know what you can do if you have $10 million? Anything you want. I mean, what if I'm half wrong? See, that's living like no one else so that later I can live and give like no one else. I mean, think about it. Let's just go crazy while we're at it. What if you did both? You had 17 million. That's just hard to imagine. It's hard to get that in your head. Well, let me tell you what happens. What happens is long before then, you quit worrying about you. Long before then, you even quit worrying about your kids. It's pretty well okay. Long before then, you start realizing these dollars are tools in my hand that God has given me to help other people. And you start seeing this as a mission. You start seeing financial management as a missional experience. I got a buddy of mine that's worth about $20 million, and he sat down in church a while back, and he looked over, he and his wife, and there was a little lady sitting over here, and she's sniffling and crying a little bit before church started. Well, his wife slipped over and put her arm around her and said, "Honey, what's going on? Can I pray with you?" Yeah. I'm sorry to bother you guys. I just was praying here. And, well, what are you praying about? Well, my electricity. I'm behind on my bills. I'm a single mom, and my electricity is going to be cut off on Tuesday. And the wife motions to her husband. He comes over. She told him what was going on. He said, "Well, we'll pray for you." And they pray, and they took down her name and her address and everything so that they could follow up with her and make sure she was okay. And he went down Monday and paid the light bill for a year in advance. And she'll never know who did it. Because you know a guy that's worth $20 million doesn't dress in such a way that you know who he is. I just happen to know who he is. She'll never know. It was a miracle. It was a miracle. It was a miracle that someone learned how to handle $20 million in such a way that they knew to pay the light bill a year in advance for a single mom. See, that's what this kind of money is. It's a tool to do things like that with. And guess what? If you're trying to pay your light bill, that never occurs to you. So we've got to get ourselves to this point so that you can have these kinds of thoughts running through your head. You take your eyes off of you take your eyes off your kids long before you get to $17 million. The baby steps work. If you work them in the order we're talking about, you're going to see the results. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of hard work, but it works. The diligent prosper. The Bible says hope deferred makes the heart sick, but when desire comes, it is a tree of life. Now, how do we get to where we can save $600? Well, we've got to do the dumping debt lesson. We've got to get rid of the debt. How do we get to where we can save $600? Well, we've got to do the cash flow planning lesson where we're doing the budget together, which is the relating with money lesson. And we're on paper, on purpose. Every dollar has an assignment. Suddenly, you will start finding money that used to go to the bank and can now go to you because you've gotten control of your most powerful wealth-building tool, which is your income. Now, once the emergency fund is in place, you need to begin retirement and college funding, which all fall under this heading of long-term investing for wealth. Now, let's walk back through the baby steps again. Baby step 1 is, we're going to do that before we do anything. No other side deals. We get that done first. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to use the debt snowball. We're going to list our debts smallest to largest, pay them off in that order with gazelle intensity. Once all of our debts are gone except our home, then baby step 3 is 3 to 6 months of expenses set aside for emergencies. Now we're sitting there pretty cool right then because we got $10,000 or $15,000, $20,000 sitting there in cash just for emergencies. We don't have any payments but a house payment. Now it's time to go on the offensive. Now it's time to go out here and plow the field and really start to bring some crops in. And that's where we are. Baby step 4. Baby step 4 is invest 15% of your household income into Roth IRAs and or pre-tax retirement plans. Now I didn't say 28%. Some of you have been in a hurry. I want to save all I can. I'm a big saver. Hold it down to 15 because I've got some other stuff to do with this money in a little while. We've still got to do college, and we still got to get the house paid off. So I want to hold it to 15 for now. Later, you can come back and max it out. But I didn't say 8% and, well, Dave, my company and all the... Yeah. Listen, don't try to get out of this. What's the least I can do and still be wildly rich? You know what? Wrong question, you know? What? Wrong question. You're going to have to plow the field. You got to buckle the horses in and get out. It's got to be done. The more you save, the more you're going to have. This is how it works, right? So 15% is where we're going for right here. And here's the weird thing. At almost any income, if you save 15% over an extended period of time, you will retire with dignity, even if you don't get a raise. Take a $25,000 a year person, put the 15% number in there, and do that from age 30 to age 70. It's not millions and millions, but it's plenty to live on. They're going to be okay. So the numbers work there. And of course, the big numbers, you start putting 15% of those away, well, it's big numbers, right? So it works. We've worked this for years. This is not our first ride on this cabbage truck. This stuff is proven out in actual mechanical practice. We know what we're doing. Now, the thing is this. We're going to go through all the technical stuff about 401ks and Roth IRAs, and I can guarantee you one thing. As soon as I finish shooting this, the government will change the laws. So check our website pretty regularly. We keep all the up-to-date stuff on there. So if you hear something in here that doesn't sound quite right or whatever, it's been changed, it might have been changed. Just go to DaveRamsey.com, go to Financial Peace, get on the website, look at the stuff. It's all in there. We keep up to date on everything. So we're going to keep you cutting-edge material there. Everything is available. And I have a network of people that I endorse for investing across the whole nation. We call them endorsed local, because they're local in your area, providers. ELPs for short. And they have to have the heart of a teacher or I won't endorse them, not the heart of a salesman. And they have to agree to do investing the way I teach. So I don't send them over there and then you get different advice than what you've heard here or what you've read in one of my books or something like that. There has to be this integrity, this consistency. So you can get with them, you can get online, get up-to-date information, actually start doing the things that we're talking about in this lesson. What's scary is that 42% of American workers have never tried to calculate their retirement. That last year, the average American spent more time in that year watching reality television than they spent in the previous 10 years working on their retirement plan. Now, here's the weird thing. The average millionaire can't tell you who got thrown off the island, who can't dance, who got the rose. We're not sure just who the biggest loser is in this case, are we? Yeah, it could be us, those of us that get glued to our tube. And we could end up being the biggest losers in this case. So, you don't want to spend more time on reality television, which, by the way, hint, is not reality. Shocking. and you don't want to spend more time on that than you spend on your actual life and on your future. You spend your time on stuff that actually matters. 70% of workers say they are not where they need to be with their retirement savings. 29% of Americans have less than $1,000 saved. And their plan, I guess, is, well, when I get old, the government, which is well known for its ability to handle money, will take care of me. Not a good plan. So I use the KISS rule of investing in my life. The keep it simple, stupid rule of investing. Now, it doesn't mean that somebody is simple, and it doesn't mean they're stupid. Some of the most profound things I've ever seen in my life are simple. As a matter of fact, normatively speaking, across the wealthy people that I've worked with over the years, their plans are unbelievably simple. I always heard, that the wealthy people had all these special kinds of trusts or partnerships or sophisticated investments and all these different weird things and all these little things they were doing, and that's how they became wealthy. The secrets of the rich. Let me tell you what the secrets of the rich are. They're not a secret. That's the secrets of the rich. It's obvious and it's right in front of us. So keep it simple. It doesn't mean you're stupid. Don't put money in things you don't understand, ever. Well, Dave, it's difficult to understand. My guy says stuff like, have a well-diversified portfolio. Sometimes we use $20 words to describe a $3 concept in the financial world so we can charge you a commission. Diversification, for instance. Diversification simply means to spread around. So when you don't put all of your money in one place, diversification lowers risk. See, if you put all your money in your company stock with your 401k, now you got your income and your job coming from that company, and you've bet your future on that one company. If this one company goes down, you're roadkill. You're gone. So you don't buy company stock with your 401k. You diversify. You put it anywhere but that. Any other company. Any other place. For goodness sakes. Now, I'll show you some things to do with it. These people who get out there and they put all their money in one stock, in one company, that company goes bye-bye. They go bye-bye with it. So you have to spread it around. So here's the thing to remember. Money is like manure. Left in one pile, it stinks. Spread around, it will grow things. By the way, diversification is in the Bible. Wow. Ecclesiastes says, give portions to 7, yes to 8, for you do not know what disaster may come upon the land, or what character we elect as the next president. Scary. Scary out there. And so we don't know what's going to happen. Spread your portions to 7, yes to 8, for you do not know what disaster may come upon the land. And when you have your money spread out and you don't have any debt and you've got an emergency fund and wild times come in the economy, you feel like a spectator instead of a participant in the storm. It sets you up in a completely different way. Mutual funds are where investors pool their money to invest. Professional portfolio managers manage the pool or the fund, and your return comes as the value of the fund is increased. What in the world did he just say? Well, let's try this. I'm going to make this a mutual fund. I'm going to be the mutual fund manager because I'm the guy up here with the props. So we're going to open a mutual fund, and I'm going to let some of you on the front row invest in the mutual fund. When I call out to you, you're going to be an investor. I need to hear your first name. Second in. Yes, ma'am. Wanda is going to put some money in our fund. Your name, sir? Tony is going to put some money in our fund. Your name, sir? Dominic is going to put some money in our fund. Your name, sir? Arnie is going to put some money in our mutual fund. Your name, ma'am? Sally is going to put some money in our mutual fund. Your name, ma'am? Christine is going to put some money in our mutual fund. Your name, ma'am? Carrie is going to put some money in our mutual fund. Your name, sir? John is going to put some money in our mutual fund. Now, what just happened? These people just mutually funded this. It's a mutual fund. This is hard, isn't it? That's what a mutual fund is. They went together and invested in something mutually into a fund. Now, they're on the front row. They're smart people. So they would never put money in a mutual fund unless they knew what the manager was doing with it, and unless they had looked at his track record, his character, his experience, how he had done over the last several years with this mutual fund. Now, and then what we buy with this money in this mutual fund, what the managers of the fund buy with it, tells us what kind of fund it is. If we were to buy bonds with this money, then we would call this a bond mutual fund. In the industry, we would shorten that and just call it a bond fund. Have you ever heard of that? Say yes. Yes. Okay. If I bought stock with this money, and I bought stock in companies that make things like Dove soap or Country Crock butter or Q-tips or Slim Fast or Lipton tea or Ben & Jerry's or all detergent, I would be buying stock in a foreign overseas company. Those products are certainly all consumed stateside. Many of those products are made stateside with factories here in the U.S., but the companies are not U.S. companies. They are foreign or overseas companies. Nothing wrong with that, but I'm just explaining to you how it works. So if I were to buy stock in international companies rather than U.S. companies, then we might call this an international stock. You're getting it. Now, if I were to buy stock in companies that are growing, maybe we bought stock in AT&T, maybe we bought stock in FedEx, maybe we bought stock in Home Depot, maybe we bought stock in Walmart, or maybe we bought stock in Microsoft, maybe we bought stock in Kmart, maybe not, and we bought stock in growing companies, then this would be called a growth stock mutual fund. That's what it is. They mutually funded it. We bought a group of 90 to 200 different companies that are growing, and your return comes as the value of the fund is increased. Not a percentage rate return. It's not an interest rate. The Home Depot stock in here went up, and one of the other stocks went down, and 3 of the others went up, and as a group, the group went up. And so you put $1,000 in here for your kids' college, and now your portion of this pie is now worth $3,000 because the value of the pie went up over time. And that's what mutual funds are, and that's how they work. Now, mutual funds are long-term investments. They're long-term investments. You never put money in a mutual fund for a short term. And let me define long-term, at least 5 years. You're going to leave the money alone at least 5 years. You stand a really good chance of getting less out of there than you put in if you don't leave it alone at least 5 years, because they go up and down, don't they? Sometimes they're going way up and it's on the news, not so much, and they're going way down and it's always on the news. I mean, if it bleeds, it leads, right? We know it's going to be on the front page of the newspaper if it's crashing. You know, back in that 2008 debacle when everything went crazy and it's shooting down, I'm doing all this media and I'm standing on there. I'm the one guy, the crazy preacher on the corner going, don't cash out your stuff. Don't cash out your 401k. I know your 401k looks like a 201k. Remain calm. Because the only people that get hurt on a roller coaster are those that jump off. Ride the roller coaster out because it's over time. They're good long-term investments. Now, I personally invest my 401k and have invested my kids' college funds, and I've recommended for 20 years the same exact mix on how to do that. I've recommended you spread out your investments across 4 types. So inside your 401k, inside your Roth IRA, inside your kids' college, or just investing in general, we're going to diversify by being in 90 to 200 different stocks in the mutual fund, but then we're going to be in different kinds of mutual funds. So we diversified our diversification. We're going to put 25% in growth and income funds. We're going to put 25% in growth funds. We're going to put 25% in international funds. And we're going to put 25% in aggressive growth stock mutual funds, which is the wild child of the bunch. You know, the growth and income is the obedient, predictable child. The aggressive growth is all over the place. It's up. I had one of them that was up 110% one year. Back in the 90s with the tech bubble, anybody remember that? The next year I lost 56% on it. So it's right back where it started, basically. But it's all over the place. But it had averaged over a long period of time about 20%. But it was a wild ride to get there. And it's been crazy through the 2000s as well. So the deal is this, you got to have a little mix here. You got the calm one, you got the wild child, you got the one in the middle, and you've got the exchange student, right? So we've kind of got a mix here in the family, and there's something always to be a little scared about in there, because if things are going up, that growth and income looks boring. If things are going down, you're real glad you got it. And so you want to be just very, very, very spread out, very diversified. Now, when you're doing your investing, we always save long term with tax-favored dollars. Now, we used to say pre-tax dollars, but then the Roth IRA came along, and of course, that's tax-free. Say free. Free. That's a good word. I like that word. Free is a good word when associated with the government. It's a good thing. So free. Now we've got tax-free and we've got pre-tax, so we just call it tax-favored. Tax-favored means that the investment is in a qualified plan. And one of those plans will sound something like an individual retirement arrangement, an IRA. Now, marketing with banks has been done so much that you thought that was an individual retirement account. The law calls it an individual retirement arrangement, an IRA. Now, everybody knows what an IRA is. There's a 401k, a 403b, a 457. There are SEPs. There's a little bit of everything. And what's interesting about this is people just say, I've got a 401k. Here's what this is. What does 401k stand for? It is the regulation in the IRS code that allows us to have this account. It's section 401, subsection K. With a 403b, it's section 403, subsection B. You go into the code and actually read it. That's how you'll find it in there. And the 401k is a typical corporate savings plan. A 403b is for nonprofits and hospitals and teachers and that kind of stuff. And that's where you'll see that. 457 is deferred comp. You're just putting off your compensation until later. And so that's how these things work out. The bottom line is this. We get confused and we say, well, I invested in an IRA. I invested in a 401k. Not really. A 401k is how your investment was treated. Basically, the investment is the cookie jar. This is the money. It could be a mutual fund. It could be an account at the bank. It could be all kinds of different things. This is money. And if you just set money out there in the cold, the government wants a piece of it. If instead you want to keep it warm, you put a little coat over it called an IRA. Or you put a little coat over it called a 401k to keep it warm. But the coat is the 401k. That just means it's got covering so that the taxes don't get to it. But under here is the meat. This is the money. This is a mutual fund, for instance. And a mutual fund you can have with or without an IRA. If you qualify it as an IRA or you use a mutual fund in your 401k, now we put a coat over it and we're keeping it warm from taxes. We're keeping the taxes off of it. So that's how we've got to remember to look at this. Now let's look at IRAs for a second. Remember, the IRA is not a type of an investment at a bank. As a matter of fact, I don't recommend you buy your IRA at a bank. I don't want a bank IRA because I don't want bank interest rates. Awful, right? Instead, it's the tax treatment on virtually any type of investment that you do as an individual retirement arrangement. It's the coat over the cookie jar. Everyone with an earned income is eligible for an IRA. Now, everyone doesn't have an earned income. If you're on disability, you're not eligible. If you get only Social Security or pension, you're not eligible. If you're living off of investments, you're not eligible. You have to have wages or own a business and have an earned income in order to have an IRA. You can't do an IRA that way. And so you can't start an IRA on your children unless they have an earned income. However, I did have a buddy in the investment business one time that had a client came in. The baby was in a diaper commercial. The baby got paid big bucks for the diaper commercial. So they filed a tax return on the baby and did an IRA on the baby that year. But unless you're sending your kids to the salt mines, you're really not going to be able to do IRAs on them. They have to have an earned income, and you have to file a tax return for them to qualify on that. The one exception for this is non-income producing spouses. If, for instance, my wife is a stay-at-home mom, if we qualified for it income-wise, we don't, but if we qualified for an IRA, I can do $5,000 on me and $5,000 on a non-income producing spouse. That's the one exception. That's the one person that doesn't have an earned income that can have an IRA. Now, the Roth IRA came along a few years ago because Senator William Roth, God rest his soul, I love the man. Oh, thank you. The Taxpayer Relief Act of 1997 put the Roth IRA in place. Now, the Roth IRA is an after-tax IRA that grows tax-free. Say free. Free. And if you save like we teach, you're going to have enough money that the Roth IRA is your best route to go. If you get out of debt and you start saving 15% of your income, almost every one of you will have enough money that the Roth IRA is mathematically going to be the way to go. It's definitely the way to go. And Roth, that little four-letter word, is a multi-million-dollar word. Let's say you did your savings and you built it up in a 401k. Well, you know as you pull the money out of the 401k that everything that's in there is taxable. Let's say you had $4 million in there. By the time you get that $4 million out, you're going to give at least $1 million of it to the government in taxes, aren't you? Say yes? Yes. But if it's $4 million in a Roth IRA, it's tax-free. So that word made you $1 million. It's worth $250,000 a letter. Wow. Now, the 401ks, the 403bs, the 457 plans, most companies have completely done away with the traditional pension plans. They rely almost exclusively now on a 401k type of a plan or a 403b or something like that. They're not providing company-provided pensions hardly anywhere anymore. That's a dinosaur. It's almost gone. Now, the 401k is great, though. I love it because the upside of a 401k is you own it. See, if a company provides you a pension and the company goes broke, they lost your pension too. It's an asset of the company. The money's gone. But with the 401k, it's yours. It's in your name. It's your money you put in. Even if they match, it's yours. You're vested, it's yours. And if they go broke, you're fine. You're fine. I talked to a lady this week on my radio show that the company she was working for had gone broke and she wanted to know what to do with her 401k. That's a good question to ask. That's a good thing to know, that you got to keep your retirement even though you lost your job. Because that's awesome. That's the good side of the 401k. The bad side of the 401k is if you put in nothing, how much is going to be in there? Nothing. Yow. So you got to use this tool or it's not going to be of any value to you at all. Now, some companies are now offering the Roth 401k, which your portion that you put in is after tax and grows tax-free. I'm loving this word. Now, the match, if your company matches, cannot be in Roth form. It'll be traditional, and it'll be pre-tax and taxable on the match portion. So you'll kind of have two things running in your 401k at the same time. But I offer a Roth at my company. I personally do a Roth 401k at my company. We have both traditional and Roth. All of our people do the Roth, just about. I mean, it's very simple because it's going to grow tax-free. You just can't beat this. Now, you should be funding your plan whether your company matches or not. But the plans that have that company match provide great returns. Because here's what we're talking about. If you have $1,000 of income and you bring it home, by the time it gets home, it looks suspiciously like $700. Take home pay. But if you put the $1,000 in income pre-tax into your 401k, that $300 that would have gone to Congress is being used to grow you money. So in a sense, you're using the government's money to grow you some money by doing it pre-tax. So it's kind of a secret government formula to wealth. Ha, ha, ha. Right? But now this is really important. Think about this. Let's go back to our Great American Dream example. You remember that 30-year-old couple had a non-matching 401k, put in $600 a month, $7,200 a year. They did that from age 30 to age 70, had $7.4 million. Y'all remember that a while ago? Say yes? Yes. Here's what's interesting. 30 to 70 is 40 years. They put in $7,800 for 40 years. That's $288,000. They have $7.4 million in the account. $288,000 of it they put in. The rest of that is growth. That's amazing. What that tells me is every one of those little $288,000 is a rabbit. It's making other dollars. So every one of these I don't send to Washington and I can put up here in that 288 makes me a bunch of others. So it's very, very important to do tax-favored stuff, whether it's tax-free or pre-tax. Now, if you get ready to do a rollover because you leave your job, you always roll over all retirement plans from your old job when you leave to a new IRA. Move it to some good mutual funds and a good IRA. Spread it across those 4 types we talk about. Always take it with you. And the reason is very simple. Back at the old company, you got problems interacting with them now because you don't work there. Hard to deal with HR, hard to get your options, hard to get your statements, and you only got 10 or 12 options to pick from anyway back there, right? Over here with my IRA, I got 8,000 mutual funds I can choose from. I got total control. I know what's going on. So increased options, increased flexibility, increased control. So always take it with you. And if you do a direct transfer, which is the only way to go, do not bring the money home, make it a direct transfer. If you do the direct transfer, what you're doing is you sit down with your mutual fund broker, your endorsed local provider or whoever, you fill out the forms to buy the mutual funds for your new IRA, and you fill out one more form called the direct transfer form. They send that form back to your old company. Your old company sends the money straight to the mutual fund, not to you. If they send it to you, they have to withhold 20% on it, and you're going to get taxed and hammered and all this other stuff. You want the direct transfer. So in a sense, what we're doing is we're going over here with the coat, and we're getting us another mutual fund, and we're going, come here, right? And then we get it back warm again. So that direct transfer costs you no taxes, there's no withholding, no problems, no issues. You just moved it to something that's within your control and giving you many, many more options, which is definitely the way to go. When it comes to retirement plans, never borrow on your retirement plan. How many of you know that you're allowed to borrow on a 401k at most places? Raise your hand. Never, ever, under any circumstances, ever borrow on your 401k. Was he unclear? I hope not. Never borrow on your 401k. Major problems are created. One little problem is that people say, well, I'm borrowed on my 401k because I got credit card interest over here of 18%, and I can borrow there at 5%, and I'm paying myself back the interest. Well, that's really cool, except for the fact that you unplugged a mutual fund that might have been paying you 12 or 15% that year in order to pay yourself 5%. Something wrong there. And you paid yourself 5%. I'm confused as to how that worked out for you. This is something to think through. The biggest problem, though, with this is the problem is when you leave your company, you will be hit with a call on that loan. You have 60 days to pay that loan back. And if you don't pay it back within 60 days, they're going to hit you with a 10% penalty, the IRS is, plus your tax rate. So you're going to be hit with about a 40% hit. So if you got a $10,000 loan over there, they're going to hit you with about $4,000 when you leave your company. And you will leave your company. You will. When you get a better job, when they lay you off, or when you die. Now, when they lay you off and when you die are not times that you need to be having an extra big tax bill due to penalties. You set yourself up to make bad times worse by using the wrong kinds of vehicles when you borrow on your 401k. So if you got a 401k loan, don't freak out. Just put it in your debt snowball, get it paid off. Never do that again. Now, I'm going to go borrow on my 401k and pay off all my debts. Wait a minute. You can't borrow your way out of debt. You got to pay that back. You can't get out of a hole by digging out the bottom. That doesn't work. And isn't it funny how we use words like that? Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks, the Bible says. We say, I borrowed to pay off my debts. You didn't pay off your debts. You just moved them. And you moved them, in this case, to a worse vehicle than you had before, even though it might be a better interest rate. But you set yourself up for serious problems. Our suggestion for investing is this. We're going to do 15% in baby step 4 of our income into retirement. 15%. Say it one more time. 15%. 15%. That means if you make $100,000, we're going to put in how much? $15,000. So if we make $50,000, we're going to put in $7,500. So you real quickly take your household income, and between her 401k, your 403b, and Roth IRAs, somehow we got to get to 15% and no more. So here's your order of attack. The first thing you do is if you have a match, you fund up through the match. How many of you have a match at your work? A bunch of you. Okay? The match might be 3%, it might be 5%, it might be 6%, but very seldom is it 15% of your household income. So you take the match that you can get. Let's say we're dealing with that $100,000 couple and they had a 3% match on both of them. So they could put $3,000 in there and get a 100% match on it, right? So we're going to do the first 3% in the match. Then the next step is above the match, do the Roth IRAs if you qualify. Now, if you're married, filing jointly, you can do 2 of those. That's $10,000. Now, we got $3,000, 3% going with the match. We're going to do 2 Roths. That's $10,000. Is that $13,000? Are you with me? Say yes. Yes. Okay. We're still only at 13%, though. So we've done 2 Roths and we've done the match. Now, the last step then is you complete your 15% by going back to your 401k or other company plans that are available to you and go ahead and round it out. And so we got to put another 2% into the 401k. So translation, 3 with a match and 2 without. We're putting 5% in the 401k and we're doing a couple of Roths, and that got us to 15% with this example couple that I'm walking through. So that's how you walk through it. You take the match is best, the tax-free growth is next best, the non-matching pre-tax is next best. And you walk right down that list and fill out to your 15%. Not 17, not 28, just to 15%. Now, when it comes to college saving and college investing, I can't think of anyone better to talk to you about this than someone that has spoken to hundreds of thousands of high school students and college students all across America. Really got her finger on the pulse of what's going on out there on the college campuses right now. My daughter, Rachel Cruz.
Thank you. Well, over the past couple of years, I've traveled around talking to college students, and I've been finding this common theme, and that is one of student loans. And I've personally come to believe that student loans are the roadblock for this generation. Just last month, I was up north talking to a private school with a couple of thousand college students, and at the end, this guy came up to me, and he was telling me that he was graduating in May, and he had taken out loans for the entire 4 years. So he was going to graduate college with $90,000 in student loan debt. And then he tells me that he's engaged and they're getting married in June, and his fiance took out all loans to go to college. So she has $90,000 in student loan debt. And my heart just sank because I thought, you are 21 years old. You're going to be newly married, and you guys are going to be $180,000 in debt. And then he proceeds to tell me that he found this mission organization down in South America, and they had this dream of going down there. But after running the numbers, as you probably all know, they're not able to go. They're not able to do that because of their student loan payments. And I just thought, that's so heartbreaking that, again, you are 21 years old. You have your entire life ahead of you, but yet you can't do what you want to do, your dream job, what God is calling you to do because of your student loan payments. And so this idea of student loans, again, it has become the roadblock of this generation. So parents, I encourage you, yet I am pleading with you to be all up in your kids' business when it comes to this subject in life. You have to be. And that means if they're 2 and you're just now starting to save for it, or they're 17 and they're applying for colleges in the fall. No matter where they are on that spectrum, you have got to hold their hand and walk them through this process. So this brings us to baby step 5, which is to save for your children's college using tax-favored plans. And yes, this is baby step 5, not baby step 4. Baby step 4 is 15% of your income into retirement. So you do that first because retirement is going to happen whether you like it or not. College may or may not happen. And so you're not a bad parent for doing that first. Do that. That's okay. That's what we recommend. And then after 15%, then save for your kids' college. I watched my parents really get their act together financially. And so we were able to go to college, to a state school in 4 years with a plan to graduate debt-free. And Dad, in fact, told us that if we didn't graduate in 4 years, anything beyond that, we had to pay for. And I can remember sitting at freshman orientation and the little orientation leaders on stage, talking about all the opportunities this school has for you. And Dad's sitting here, Mom's sitting here. And he said, 53% of students who start at this school will graduate, but only 20% do it in 4 years. And so Dad reached over and wrote on my orientation packet, "So have a plan," and underlined it like 6 times. So I was very aware of that. So I did graduate in 4 years, debt-free. And that was such a blessing, but sadly that is not the reality today, because the reality today is that 2 out of 3 college students are taking out loans to go to school. And the average college student is graduating with $27,000 in debt. So here are some ways that you as parents can help avoid that for your children. The first is to save in an educational savings account, an ESA, or an education IRA. And this is great because you can contribute $2,000 per year per child, and this grows tax-free. So do the math with me. That means if you start when your child is born to when they're 18, you have put a total of $36,000 in. And at 12% growth, that ESA will be worth $126,000 tax-free. Now, above that, if you want to save more or you don't meet the income limits for the ESA, you can use a certain type of 529 plan. Now, the only type of 529 plan that we recommend is one that leaves you in control of the plan at all times. Never buy a 529 plan that freezes your options, or one that automatically changes your investments based on the age of the child. Because sometimes, a computer will do this and they will see your child is 6, so they'll put your money in more aggressive funds, or your child is 16 and they'll put it in less aggressive funds. But you don't want a computer deciding that, you want to decide that. Now, there are 3 nevers for college saving. First, never save for college using insurance. Okay, always keep your insurance and your investments separate. Second, never save for college using savings bonds. Savings bonds have a rate of return as low as 3%. And tuition inflation rate is around 7%, so it's not even close. We all got that. Okay, lastly, never save for college using prepaid tuition. Because with this, your money is in the state's hands. And the states are in not great financial shape right now, so you don't want your money there. And that limits you for only staying in state. So don't use prepaid tuition. So again, never use insurance, savings bonds, or prepaid tuition. Okay, Rachel, this is all great, wonderful, but I have a 17-year-old going to school in the fall. What do I do? Well, here are some great debt-free options to allow your student to go to school and still be debt-free. This first piece of advice is honestly the best, and this is to pick an in-state school or a community college. I want to rip my hair out when I am talking to college students, and literally I have a conversation like this almost on every campus. Well, Rachel, I really wanted to be different than all my friends, so I decided to come to this state school instead of the state school in my state. I'm like, you want to step over a state line, pay 3 times as much to be different. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Oh, awesome. Okay, well, we have some other issues here. Let's keep working through this. Because that happens all the time. You step over a state line and pay 3 times as much. It makes no sense at all. So don't do that. Stay in state, take the advantage of in-state tuition. Us Ramsey kids all went to an in-state public school. They're not evil, they're great. So in-state schools are great. And when I'm talking to high school seniors and I say, okay, you guys, if you're wanting to go to college, which you should, education is great, but your parents can't help you and you're the one that's in charge of it, then go to a community college your first year or 2. Get your prereqs out of the way and do that. And if you want to go graduate from a big state school, just go to a community college near that state school and your credits will transfer. They work together a lot, so it's possible. So community colleges are so inexpensive, so do that. Take advantage of that for your first year or 2. Next is to compare your on versus off-campus living expenses. A lot of people assume, living in the dorm is the cheapest way, or having a meal plan is so expensive, don't ever do that. Well, it's really going to depend the city you're going to school in. You need to look at your options in your particular situation. And we actually have a great calculator online that can help you with that. Next, aim for scholarships with SAT and ACT tutoring. We did this as Ramsey kids. We all had ACT tutoring. I remember going every week for 6 weeks before I took the ACT. And it helps. Tutoring helps. Take that advantage and do that. And take the test multiple times, because the more your scores go up, the more scholarships you can have. And scholarships equal free money. We love that, don't we? Yes. So look at those tests. Take advantage of those tests. And last is probably a shocker, so prepare your hearts. Get a job. Yes. I'm on college campuses almost every week, and I know about this much of them have student loan debt. And honestly, I talked to about this many that have jobs. It is foreign today. And even in school, I knew more students with student loans than jobs. And so if the average college student works 20 hours a week, they can pay their way through a state school. And studies show that the average college student socializes about 20 hours a week. So get off the Frisbee golf course, put down the Starbucks latte, right? And get to work. Get a job. Pay your way through. But Rachel, my child needs to really focus on their studies. I don't want them to have a job. They really need to focus on their grades. Well, how are they paying for it? Well, they're taking out loans, but I just really want them to focus on their grades. Well, actually, studies show that students who work 10 to 19 hours a week graduate with GPAs higher than students who don't work. You learn time management. You learn so many life lessons while working, so it is not an evil thing. It is a must. So you can go to school debt-free. If you go in state, you look at your living expenses, you apply for scholarships, and you're working. It is possible. And parents, I want you to hear this so loud and clear, because in our culture today, we are so okay with student loans. You can't be a student without a student loan. That's just the only way to go to school. And it's becoming a roadblock. People are not able to live out their dreams because of the choices they make when they're 18 years old. And their parents are not helping them. and helping them financially and mentally. So walk with your students through this. Walk with your kids through this because it is so, so important. Now we'll have Dave come back to the stage to wrap up this lesson. Thanks, you guys.
Well, this is an important topic, this whole college thing. It is unbelievable. And Rachel's right. Teaching your child to work is not child abuse. It actually makes them more employable when they come out. So education is valuable. Your degree is worthless. People think because they get a degree that it's magic fairy dust and it's going to make their life successful. Nope. Knowledge and perseverance and integrity and character and going and getting even more knowledge makes you successful. That's how things work out there. And let me just tell you what's more useless than your degree? Your pedigree. You know how much I care where you went to school? Not at all. I have never gone into a doctor's office in my life and said, wait a minute, doc, before you touch me, I want to see where you went. Never one time have I done that. Never one time have I gone into a CPA's office and I said, now where'd you get your accounting degree? I have never asked them that. I've never asked an investment broker where he studied finance, unless it was in conversation after I got to know him. So let me just tell you, very few people care where you went to school. Now, I'm not against an elite education. I'm not against a private education. I'm certainly not against a Christian education. I'm against the debt associated with it and the lack of thought that goes into the planning of your educational process. Now, as we wrap up this whole retirement and college planning thing, I'm always reminded of the time, one of my things is I do best practices, which means I find people who are doing something I'd like to do someday, and I interview them and learn how they're doing it. If they're skinnier than me, I want to know how they did that. You know, if they're better parents than me, I want to know how they did that. If they got a great marriage, I want to know how they did that. If they've become wealthy and they're a strong Christian, a strong Christ follower, I want to know what their life looks like. And I met a man who's become a friend, is 72 years old. He's a billionaire, actually a multi-billionaire. A billion is a lot. That's 1,000 million. This guy's a Christ follower. He's an unbelievable giver, unbelievable family, really a great guy. Not a perfect person, but a great, great guy. And so I'm asking him, I'm sitting down, I said, listen, I want to be you when I grow up. So what do I do? And he said, well, he gave me a couple pointers, always be a giver, gave me some good pointers. And he said, and there's this book I read. You got to read this book, Dave. I love books. I'm a book junkie. So what's the book? Tell me. He said, well, this book is so good. He said, I read it all the way. As soon as I started having kids, I read it to my kids. And he said, Dave, as soon as my kids started having kids, I read it to my grandkids. He said, I got my first great-grandbabies. I'm reading it to my grandbabies. And I'm going, oh, it's the Bible. You know, he's going to give me a Bible speech. I said, the Bible, right? And he goes, no. And I went, oh, what's the book? Because I'll read the Bible, but I mean, what's the book? If this billionaire is telling me this is a book to read on how to be him when I grow up, what's the book? And he said, Dave, have you ever read The Tortoise and the Hare? And I'm like, that's what you got for me. All that build up, and you give me the Aesop's fable. Really? He goes, no, Dave. He said, this is an important book because we live in a culture full of hares. They run here and there. They can't keep their eye on anything. They can't focus. They never finish the game. They never finish the job. They can't even watch a TV show all the way through. Guilty. He said, therefore, the tortoise is so unusual that the tortoise will win. And he said, with investing, you just ignore all the ambient noise. You just keep your eye on the ball and you just keep walking. People will think you're strange. They'll call you names. They won't understand. They'll say, he's kind of ugly. Look at him. But you just keep walking. You're going to get prettier. Believe me. And he said, the weird thing is, every time I read this book, he said, the tortoise wins. I went, yeah, I bet. He said, you're really not getting this, are you? And I said, no. And he said, when you get home, you get the book. And he said, you read it 2 or 3 times, and one of these days it'll come to you. And I did. And I read it. It took me about 3 times, and it hit me one day. The tortoise wins. I need to be a tortoise. The diligent prosper. The mind of man plans his ways, but the Lord directs his steps. The diligent prosper. You know what diligence is? Diligence is excellence over time. Excellence every day over time. That's the tortoise. When Paul talks about run the race in the Bible, you look that word up, race, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. It's a long race. The tortoise wins every time I read the book. So 15% of your income going into retirement isn't for 1 month or 1 year. It's for the rest of your life. And it will build a pile of wealth to enable you to not only have lived like no one else, but now you're going to get to live and to get to give like no one else. And you have to take your eyes off of all the distractions, because the media is out there every day telling you how bad it is, aren't they? They're telling you how if you don't elect this guy or this gal, or you don't put this person in, or the world's going to come to an end, and taxes and all, well, throw a brick through your television. My friend Zig Ziglar says he gets up every morning, reads the newspaper, and reads the Bible so he can tell what both sides are doing. The Bible does not say that fear is a fruit of the Spirit. Fear is not a fruit of the Spirit. It tells us to be courageous, and having done all we know how to do, to stand. And so be the tortoise. Be steady. That's biblical living in your finances. It'll change everything. Now, whatever you do, go back and look at the Complete Guide to Money book that's in your kit, and it's got a chapter in there on mutual funds and on investments. You can get into the details of how that stuff works a little bit more. You can get everything online. You can do all this stuff, but commit to learning how to plant your crops, how to fertilize your crops, and how to harvest your crops. And be like that farmer where you're saying, yes, I am thankful for the Lord's blessings, but you should have seen this field when he had it all to himself. Take 1 minute and write down some of your goals from this lesson.
Hey guys, welcome back. Hopefully you liked this week's episode with Dave Ramsey in college and investing. And there's a few things, usually I know a few different people, they kind of log off. They think, oh, the meat of the message is over. But there's two things I really want to say right now. And the one thing is this: 42% of Americans have never, ever tried to calculate how much money it will take for them to retire. 42% of Americans have never even tried to calculate it. Man, that's terrible. If we don't have a plan, if we don't have a goal, first off, we have nothing motivating us. But also on top of that, we have no idea what's going on. And so we need to get our stuff together. We need to actually figure out how much money do I need to retire. Great resource that I recommend for this is ChrisHogan360.com. ChrisHogan360.com. What's great about ChrisHogan360.com is that he is more focused on the investing side. Dave Ramsey is on the saving side. They're partnered up. They're actually linked up. But I highly recommend go to his website. He has a lot of great tools there for showing us on retirement. And I know that a lot of people, you might think, oh, it's too late to even think about retirement. I'm stuck. It's never too late to think about retirement. Just because we might not have made the right choice in the past doesn't mean that we can't make good ones today. Make the right choices today to try to protect your future as much as possible. Have hope. God is with you. Remember that. But we also need to look at college savings. And one thing personally that I want to say is this. When it comes to college, I personally believe that this next generation will be steering more and more away from college and heading more into like trade schools as the role of college is diminishing globally. That doesn't mean that we are to not save for our children to go to education. However, what that means is that we need to be safe and know what funds we are putting where we're putting our funds. I know that there's a lot of college dedicated accounts. Rather than putting into a college dedicated account where basically if they don't use it for college, there's huge fees if they don't pull it out. There's other saving fees or there's other financial institutions that we can put our money into for our kids where there's no fees if they don't use it for colleges. And so what I really want to talk about, man, is Proverbs 13:11. We say this every single week, but wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little will increase it. And this is the heart of investing. Understand this. There's nothing wrong with being rich. There was a huge movement through the church a while ago that if you were rich, that you were ungodly. And they were using the verse of it's hard for a rich man to enter in the kingdom of God. And then there's the other side that's saying that healthy, wealthy, and wise. And to be real about it, God gives us our tools. He gives us our finances, and He expects us to save it up little by little so that one day we can retire, one day that we can give an inheritance to our children. The Bible says a good man leaves an inheritance to his children. And so once again, to be a good steward of our finances is also to be someone that cares for our families. And so this week, what our homework is it's simple. What we're going to do is that I'm going to go a little bit away from Financial Peace University, and I want you guys to go to Chris Hogan, that is CHRISHOGAN 360.com. On that link, you will be able to find all the information you need for retirement and investing. Go on there and follow and complete the retirement assessment and see and make sure that you have the right amount of funds put away, and just make sure that you know what's going on. It's better to have a plan than to just blindly wander into retirement. And so look at your budget, see how much money you need to put away, and then see how you can fit it in. Sometimes those numbers might be a little too high. That doesn't mean that we don't put away anything. Put away as much as you can. Try to reach that goal, and trust me, God will take care of you. He will. Because when we start to plan, God honors that. And so let's pray, and then we'll go from there. Father God, I thank you so much for this day. And Lord, I pray for the two types of people today. Lord, first off, I pray for those that feel so hopeless right now. I pray for those that they feel like they started too late, or there's no way they could ever retire. And God, I pray that you may show them that there is hope. And God, I pray that you may help them to start to make wise decisions today. I pray that you may help them to know that they can do the things that they want to do, but they got to sit down and set their hearts to them. I pray that they put their plans in front of you, that they put prayer, and that they put it in front of you because you establish steps. We have our own plans, but you're the one that establishes our steps. And so, God, I pray for them, but I also pray for those of us that are starting off. And we might be really young. I pray, Lord, that you may give us the wisdom as far as what to do and what not to do. We can have all the right plans, but like I said, you're the one that establishes them. And so, Lord, I pray right now that we commit ourselves to you with planning our retirement and with our future college savings for our kids. And God, most of all, I pray that you may help us, that as we start to grow these accounts, that we don't become greedy, but rather, Lord, that we can know and look upon and say how blessed I am. Oh, God, we thank you for all that you've done. We love you and we praise you. In your name we pray, amen. Amen. Thank you guys so much for logging on, and can't wait to see you next week.